It's 5 years ago since the Fukushima nuclear meltdown in Japan. What's the economic fallout of that moment in history for the rest of the world? Welcome to your business update. Well, here in Germany, the nuclear question has gone to court. Energy companies E.ON, RWE and Vattenfall have started legal proceedings against the government. They say they received no compensation in the wake of the nuclear phase-out decision. And if they win their case, the government could have to pay them billions.
There were protests by nuclear power opponents outside the courtroom. But it's not the nuclear phase-out itself that's at stake here. It's not about nuclear power as the future of energy. That's history for Germany. It's purely and simply about closing a chapter together, fairly and justly, which we all began together. In 2000, the governing Social Democrat Green coalition decided to gradually phase out nuclear power in Germany by 2020. But only 10 years later, a conservative Liberal coalition extended the phase-out until 2036. Only a few months after that decision, the nuclear plant at Fukushima in Japan went into meltdown after being deluged by a tsunami. Germany decided nuclear power was too risky after all and backtracked. 8 plants were shut down immediately. The lifespan of the rest drastically slashed. Instead of 26, the phase-out is now scheduled for 2020 again. 3 nuclear power utilities, RWE, E.ON and Vattenfall, say the new policy infringes their property rights because it doesn't include any kind of compensation for them. They'll have to prove first what kind of assets were actually affected in the short period between autumn of 2010 and summer of 2011. The court hearing is expected to last 2 days, but a verdict isn't expected before summer at the earliest.
Well, just a week after the Fukushima accident, the German government shut down a nuclear power station near the town of Biblis. The operator, RWE, sacked 3/4 of the workforce. Most villagers lost their jobs, and the town was never the same again.
The 80-meter-high cooling towers and reactor blocks of Biblis once symbolized the glowing promise of the nuclear age. Costing billions of Deutschmarks, set in the green surrounds of Hesse's countryside, nestling alongside the majestic Rhine River. 5 years ago, Biblis was taken off the grid and shut down. As the spent fuel rods cool in the reactor's cooling ponds, Biblis now symbolizes the end of an era. For hotel operators in the region, the nuclear phase-out was an economic meltdown. Peter Fischer rents out small apartments, mostly to visiting power station technicians. In 2011, his whole world changed. Everything went crazy. About 9 months after the phase-out decision, the power station began cancelling its maintenance contracts. The contractors began pulling out their workers, and that had an immediate effect on the rental situation. Crunch time for the small town of Biblis as well. The station's car park hasn't been full for a long time. In its offices, people now work out how to dismantle the plant and dispose of nuclear waste. Owner-operator RWE employed over 1,000 people here. Only a quarter remain. The others were fired, transferred, or moved out. The surrounding community, which lived off the power station and its workers, faced ruin. Bakeries, supermarkets, bars, all posted massive losses. In the town center, once thriving businesses shut down, although the small cinema has managed to survive. Local business tax revenues collapsed by almost 50%. 1 in 3 public service jobs are going. Mayor Felix Kusika feels more like a bankruptcy administrator. He's getting no assistance from either federal or regional governments, but he tries to rise above it all. When you get no help, you can either slump into complacency or you can face up to the nature of the problem and see de facto what I can get going here in the community. What can I generate for Biblis with the motivation and commitment which is still as evident here as it always has? Biblis has to reinvent itself, like it or not, perhaps as a tourist location. There are lakes to swim in and even a 27-hole golf course already. A large logistics company is also moving in and investing. And the nuclear colossus? There'll be 60,000 tons of rubble to cart off when the bulldozers and wreckers' balls have done their work. And a model of what was meant to be the future of energy will be all that remains.
To Hanover now, where German Chancellor Angela Merkel made her annual visit to the CeBIT technology trade show today. She came with a message for Europe, calling on the continent to go digital as quickly as possible. That message delivered to almost 3,500 companies from around the world, which are at the fair. Over 350 of them are startups, and they're well aware of the continent's digital needs, and they even have their own exhibition hall.
The CeBIT Startup Hall is inevitably a hive of activity. It's easy to have ideas. Getting funding for them, then getting them to market tends to be rather harder. I'm at the BotSpot stand. The 3D scanning specialist was founded in 2013. They've come to the CeBIT to show the tech world what they can do. And that involves scanning objects of any size into these modules. I visited BotSpot in Berlin before the CeBIT to find out how its scanners work. This classic swivel chair will be scanned into a museum server. It scans in an object or a person inside 100th of a second, then it crunches the numbers and converts them into a 3D version. It's unbelievably fast. The cameras are mounted all around. We use 70 of them. They each take a picture. That's 70 pictures, 70 photos. The computer can do anything with the data. So a human avatar can go shopping online, and customers can try out different styles or colours. The auto industry is also interested, as well as Hollywood stars. I'm intrigued myself. I want to try it out, and then see the finished product at the CeBIT. But even if the CeBIT's all about digital worlds, companies need to have a real-world presence here as well. Technology fans come here from all over the world. They want to see the future. As soon as they arrive at our stand, they say, "Wow, what's that?" They can't imagine what it's all about, this 3D scan stuff. They take a look and suddenly they know exactly what the technology can do for their products and company. And this is my digital self, my avatar. Not bad. A cut above your average photo or video. I could use it to make a model of myself with a 3D printer, but I'll get another startup to do that.
The Obama administration is banning oil drilling in the Atlantic Ocean, saying the decision protects the Atlantic for future generations. It overturns a plan that would have allowed drilling over 80 kilometers off the US East Coast by 2021. There will still be 10 new sites opened in the Gulf of Mexico region, as well as 3 off Alaska. But the oil industry has savaged the decision, which could easily become an issue in this year's presidential campaign. Both Democratic candidates oppose Atlantic drilling, while Republicans vow to expand the industry. Well, we can cross now to our man on Wall Street, Jens Korte, to find out more about the impact of that decision on the oil market.
Offshore drilling on the Atlantic coast is not that easy. It is expensive and it also takes some time. Therefore, it would not have an immediate impact on the oil market. And then that said, we are not really short of supply at this point. Industry groups are not that happy with the decision of the US president. They're fearing that potential money could now flow overseas for other oil projects. Environmental groups on the other side, they applaud the decision of US President Barack Obama. But then there's also the question what will happen in January when we will have a new government. But at least for now, it did not have a big impact on the market. Quite the contrary, oil prices traded lower in the Tuesday session by about 2%, and we reached the lowest point in about a week.
That was Jens Korte in New York. To Colombia now, where more than 12 people have been arrested in the capital, Bogota, after violent protests against Uber, the app which acts much like a taxi service. Now, Uber is banned in some parts of Europe, and it's fighting legal battles in the US.
Authorities had already slapped nearly $150,000 in fines on Uber. But that wasn't enough for these guys. Thousands of regular taxi drivers streamed into the capital of Bogota. They blocked busy intersections, and they were in a fighting mood. Riot police were called in to attempt to restore order, and people got hurt in the chaos. Angry taxi drivers said they were trying to draw attention to their inability to compete with the internet-based booking service. We have to pay insurance. Why do we have to pay for insurance policies and they don't? They're illegal. Uber drivers unwittingly trapped in the traffic jams were attacked. They want to ruin cars. I understand what they're doing, but why damage cars? Uber's business model is a threat to established taxi services all over the world. That's why in many places, taxi drivers are trying to stop Uber dead in its tracks.
All right, that's your latest business news from me, Helena Humphrey, in Berlin. For more, do head to our website or go to our Twitter @DW News. But for now, keep it here on DW.